Very good evening to one and all present in this 17th number virtual meeting. First of all, I would like to welcome all my dear participants, friends who have been attending this virtual meeting today and on the topic service delivery models for librarians and libraries. And I'm really very happy to let you all know that today we have with us not one speaker, not two speakers, but we have a very eminent personality. We have three speakers together, and I'll be introducing one by one. We have with us Miss Ella Mitchell from University of East London. We have with us Dr. Y.S. Rao, Deputy Librarian from SPA Vijayawada, and we have with us Miss Emmy Stubbing from University of East London. So I request all the participants to join me to welcome all the esteemed speakers who are with us today, and they will be delivering talk on the topic service delivery models for libraries and librarians. The topic today we have chosen keeping the scenario, the situation. We are all aware that the situation everywhere in the library, people are professionals are struggling, users are struggling. So keeping all those struggle, keeping all those points in mind, we thought let us have one discussion about what could be the service delivery model for libraries, what can be a best service delivery model for library professionals to handle the situation with ease, and also to provide the better services to our beloved users. So before I request our esteemed speakers, with kind permission of all the speaker and participants, I would like to give a brief introduction of our speakers, and then I will hand over the mic to speakers, so they will talk about the service delivery models. First, starting with the Ella Mitchell, she has been working in academic libraries for over 15 years. Ella currently is working in the capacity of academic service manager at University of East London. She is very experienced in developing information literacy programs, both face-to-face and online, including redesign and launch of cross-institution plagiarism awareness courses and online information literacy training resources for staff and students. Ella is very skilled in working collaborative with learning technology teams to embed information literacy training across institutions and has been involved in a variety of cross-university projects such as Imperial College Success Guide. She has been an active member of the Information Literacy Group and the Association of Learning Technology Special Interest Group of Open Education. We welcome you, Ella, to this virtual meeting, and we hope that we'll get an opportunity to learn a lot from you. Now, I would like to introduce Emmy Stubbing. Emmy has over 5 years of experience working in a variety of library and archive settings, and received her MSc in Library and Information Studies in 2016. Her main area of focus in her career has been data-driven decisions and service development. Emmy is active in the wider library and archive committee and is the president-elect of SLA Europe for 2020. She is currently working at the University of East London as the Dockland Campus Library Manager, where she manages the frontline aspects of the service. I think we are going to learn a lot from Emmy because she is dealing directly with the users. And we have another very great and eminent personality, Dr. Y.S. Rao. He has been working in the capacity of Deputy Librarian at SPA Vijayawada. Dr. Y.S. Rao, Y. Srinivas Rao, doctorate, gold medalist, and merit scholar in the field of library and information science. He has more than 20 years of experience in the profession of librarianship. And at present, he is a Deputy Librarian at School of Planning and Architecture, Vijayawada, Institute of National Importance under Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India since 2013. And I'll be very happy to let you all know that prior to joining SPA, Sir has been working at National Institute of Technology, Rourkela, and I have been very fortunate to be associated with Dr. Rao and get guidance always in every matter. So welcome you all to this virtual meeting on behalf of all the participants and my own behalf. I welcome you all to this virtual meeting on service delivery model for libraries and librarians. And I hope with your huge experience, all the participants who have joined today, they are going to get a lot of benefit, and they will also execute wherever they are working, wherever they are working for the benefit of profession and also for the library users. So may I request Ella now? May I request Ella now to please take over the mic and start the talk. Over to you, Ella.
Okay, thank you, Deepy. And thank you for the opportunity and the invite to speak as well. Amy and I are very honoured to be part of the process for your programme. So I'm going to ask Amy to share our slides, hopefully.
Yeah.
You can share the screen. Yeah.
Perfect.
Right. Can we see that okay?
Yeah, it's okay now. You can go.
Lovely.
So
okay.
We're going to talk through really some of our experiences so far, developing the services through the pandemic and beyond, hopefully, moving forwards. So if we move forwards. Just to introduce myself, again, just following Deepy's introduction. So I am the Academic Services Manager at the University of East London, and I've got a Twitter handle, so if you do want to get in touch after the webinar and kind of discuss anything further, I'm very happy to be contacted. So that's my Twitter handle, @meatylofi, so feel free.
Great, thank you. I would like to apologise for the subtitles are a little bit delayed. I'm not reading it great, so sorry if that's a bit distracting. Thank you very much for having me. As I said, I'm Amy Stubbing, so I'm the library manager at UEL at the moment, and I'm also SLA Europe's president. So hopefully we have a few SLA members here, and if you're not already a Europe member, hopefully you'll consider joining after this. My main areas of work are data-driven decisions. So I'm actually writing a book at the moment to be published next year on that. But a big part of my role in all of the pandemic madness has just been transferring and rethinking our services to online. I think this is a really exciting opportunity for us to basically start from scratch. So hopefully this will springboard some really interesting discussions. Same with Ella, my Twitter handle is there. Please do follow, tweet any questions, and do engage with me afterwards. Okay, so starting with just a little bit of an overview for you. So we're by no means the be all and end all experts on this, but we're hoping to give you a bit of perspective on our specific experiences and what we've been able to do with this, and hopefully just find out a little bit from you guys as well at the end. So we'll be looking at our services before the pandemic, how we've transitioned to online services, and then focusing really on some of the challenges, solutions and opportunities, both from the frontline service, so my perspective, and Ella's service from the liaison aspect. So if you have any questions throughout the thing, you're very welcome to pop it on our Padlet. So links there, and I've got the links in all of the future slides as well. So essentially this just allows you to add any of your own experience, thoughts or questions, and then we can address that later. If we don't have time during this webinar to address all the questions, what we think we'll do is create a post after the fact, so we can create a bit of a blog post from this. So please do engage with this. Okay. Handing over to Ella.
So looking a bit at our situation before the pandemic and the services as they were, we didn't have a very strong culture of working from home or remote working in the library. So it's something that's obviously had to change quite quickly. A lot of our support for students, so a lot of our inquiry support was actually quite face-to-face. And I'm sure we're not alone in this I think we did have online inquiry services, but we did experience quite a lot of face-to-face inquiries as well. With the university, we were moving towards Teams and using SharePoint in the university, but I think it was a bit of a slow burner. So we were trying to kind of adopt technology, but until pandemic kind of forced the issue, perhaps our use of it was not to the full potential that it can offer. And then again, a lot of our training and workshops that we delivered to students was quite face-to-face in module situation. Apart from a couple, and we do have some distance learning programs within the university. So there were some online provisions there, but using perhaps Skype or webinar software, so not in so much use of Teams, which we have adopted quite heavily as a university. But we'll talk about that more as we go through the webinar. And despite kind of having a strong drive towards e-resources and digital e-books and digital collections, we do still have quite a print collection within our library services, and that can be down to some of the subjects that we do teach at the university, and actually, you know, that's a situation that may not change massively post-pandemic, but it will obviously change a bit through that. A lot of our inquiry desks were staffed physically, so again, that's quite a face-to-face vision. But I've mentioned we did have an online inquiry service, and I know Amy's going to talk about that in more detail as we go through this. I won't mention too much on that. And then we were also, as an academic services team primarily, but we were looking at how we started to develop more of an online presence, and this was happening before the pandemic, which was actually a good thing, and we've been able to build quite significantly on that throughout this period. But we had development of videos and tutorials and kind of training resources that was going on, and Moodle kind of presence that we were developing. So again, it's kind of accelerated since the pandemic.
Okay. So needless to say, we weren't in the worst situation in the world, but it was a big adjustment for us, I think, moving entirely online when the pandemic hit. So just a little bit about how we actually transitioned to online services. So I think the first thing that we did, particularly from a frontline perspective, was actually sit and review the purpose of our services. I think it's fair to say that a lot of inquiry-based services and frontline services are based on a model of librarianship, which is maybe not there anymore, or the needs have completely changed from when we originally set up frontline library services. And so for me, this was quite energizing, actually, to be able to take a step back and actually have that push to go, hang on a second, what are our services for? Like, why are we here? If it's not the space, the physical space that we're supporting there and engaging with students just from that perspective, what are we doing? So being able to take a step back and really boil down, actually, if you take away the physical space of the library, what the frontline services are for, was really exciting. For a lot of that, it was kind of going, actually, what is our role in the liaison aspect of and the training and teaching aspect of librarianship, but also identifying kind of some of the things that we don't necessarily think of as really key aspects of librarianship and frontline services. So, for example, the relationship building and engagement with students. So it's that kind of soft touch, like, I guess, comforting and like making the students feel connected with the wider university and within their studies. So, for example, we know that PhD students have real issues with lack of connection with the university, with not feeling like they have a place in the university, or there's been lots of studies on this, and actually the frontline services, I think, play a key role in breaking down some of those issues and barriers. So that was our first step, to kind of really thinking about what are we actually going to offer in an online service. And then the second one was actually thinking about our service points. So in person, we obviously had our service desks. We had the kind of aspect of people coming up to us as we're walking around. We did have an online service, but it was used very poorly. The amount of inquiries we got were significantly lower than we would like. Even at the start of the pandemic, when we completely got rid of the desk, we didn't have many inquiries at all. So we had to really take a step back and go, hang on a second, where are our service points now? So I will talk a little bit more about that later on in the solutions, but essentially we knew we had to do better, and so we had to address that. So Ella, I don't know if you want to talk about training and teaching and information literacy support.
Yeah, so the kind of transition to online services kind of meant that we had to upskill and train staff. I think there's been quite a lot of peer support going on amongst our staff groups, which has been really positive. So I certainly know that you know, a lot of our teams have been taking advantage of educational tools such as LinkedIn Learning that we have in the institution. They've been engaging with the Microsoft Innovative Educator certification program as well, which again has really helped to start building skills and just confidence across the teams. And we've been engaging with the staff teams on Microsoft Teams quite significantly. So they've been kind of learning through doing a lot, which I think has been a very powerful way of engaging staff with change and the change in use of technology. And then in terms of teaching and information literacy support, it's really been quite a rapid move across to having to support some programs completely online now. So whereas we would be going into sessions and delivering face-to-face, these have now become online. So we've been working quite significantly and keeping involved with program teams to really develop links and to know how sessions are being run. It's involved a lot of liaison work in terms of keeping up to date with what's going on within the modules. And I think they have been working very closely with module leaders and program teams to become embedded in their programs, which has been very good. We had to support courses right from the start of the pandemic in their own transition to online learning as well. So we worked quite significantly with our New Beginnings team. So they're actually an award-winning re-entry programme at the University of East London, who actively kept recruitment going throughout the pandemic. So they've had cohorts joining the university throughout the period, and actually through having to deliver sessions for the programme, we've had a chance to learn and kind of start developing skills in online workshop delivery almost straight away, which has been very good. And we've been able to support students coming into the university through their induction and through their skills delivery and development. So I think we're able to still offer quite high level support that way as well. It's been a very rapid transition to online delivery for us.
Right, thank you. So moving on, now we're kind of giving you a bit of a background to that kind of initial transition online. What were the kind of challenges for us? So when the library closed, we knew probably a week or two before that it was potentially coming. So we did have a bit of a run up. However, we by no means were able to address all of the challenges in one go, and it's been an ongoing learning opportunity. So as you can see across the frontline and the academic services, there's a lot of similarities there, unsurprisingly. So we thought, I mean, I thought actually originally that our biggest challenge would be about the users. It would be how we deal with the service side of users. But actually, I would say the biggest challenge was our staff and supporting them and actually supporting them through a complete change in their service. So one of the major ones was communication. So we've gone from actually a very, as we mentioned earlier on, we didn't really have working from home as a practice. We didn't have flexible working as practice either. So a lot of the communication was fully based on being in person and bumping into people. So for us, a real big challenge was actually how we manage that. So how do we ensure that we're still having regular communication with our staff, that our staff aren't feeling like they're just left on their own, that they can, and it's really easy online to go days without actually talking to someone. You can send a couple of messages maybe, but that's, I think, really isolating for staff and will naturally impact the work that we're able to do and the support we're able to give students. And it just generally isn't a great thing for us to be dealing with. So that was a major concern, was how we actually deal with the communication side of things. How to engage users was another. As I said earlier on, our online engagement was not high. It was not where we wanted it to be, and in those first few weeks we did not see an increase despite the lack of desks. So there was a real concern there of actually we've got all these students that are still studying that suddenly have not got access to a library service, and what can we do about that? We also needed to look at how we actually start up that user engagement from nothing, which is something that actually you almost never do in a library service. And I think that's really important to take a step back and accept and realise, is that you've always got something to build a foundation on, and that's that in-person contact. It's being able to say to someone, oh, hi, have you seen our Twitter page? Have you looked at this? Whereas not having that at all and not having that direct in with users meant that we had to get really creative with what we were offering and make sure that what we were offering was really valuable. So I think one of the real benefits, I guess, which I'll talk a bit more about later on, of all of this is it's made us, the contact that we do have with users has to be really worth it. And so how we started that engagement was so much fed into actually what the product that they were getting was. Staff training, as Ella has already mentioned, was a real challenge for us too. We had real differences in digital capabilities and digital literacies, but also it kind of highlighted some of our things that we didn't realise before, because when you're on site, everyone can, if you're struggling with something, you can ask someone else to help you out and they'll do it for you. It highlighted that actually it's when you're answering a chat, for example, and you don't have someone else there, where some of those gaps in knowledge were. So really that's a benefit as well as a challenge, because it address that. And finally, just staff engagement generally in the team, in the work that they're doing, and ensuring that they're okay. So lots of challenges there, but we did have solutions, which we'll talk about later. Ella, do you want to talk about academic services?
Yeah, so from the academic services side of the coin, I think in some senses, similar to Amy, kind of had the sort of digital skills and literacy of both staff and students to try and help upskill and develop. And it's something that's always going to keep developing as well, you know, as technology and kind of infrastructure develops, we continue to learn. So it's kind of, for me, that's about looking at how we a growing mindset and a growth mindset in that sense. Keeping the team connected and motivated was quite a challenge in some ways. So one of the things we kind of looked to do was to kind of look for ways to help my team connected, but also to the wider team as well. And kind of maintaining relationships with staff and students when the campus is closed. A lot of you know, liaison work actually goes on, and you might be in the coffee queue, or you might see an academic as you're walking through the atrium of the university. You know, a lot of liaison happens sometimes in informal settings. So it's kind of keeping the team visible to staff and students is sometimes a challenge in terms of when the campus is actually closed physically. And the other thing we've been working very hard to do is actually keep supporting students throughout this transition as well. So the students were also faced with a rapid transition to completely online modes of learning, and that's also a challenge for them. It's something that they perhaps didn't expect. None of us expected it so quickly, but they've also had to adapt. So we've been looking as a team how to keep supporting students in this time, and often this has involved a lot of work around kind of helping them to find online and accessible e-textbooks, for instance. So that has involved us actually having to purchase additional copies of books to make it available in our library collections, and that's also that's been a massive challenge in some ways because of the availability of texts, but also the cost of texts. So you know, it's something that's not easily solved, but it's definitely a challenge. This is kind of linked into the digital skills and kind of literacy, but there's some real anxiety about having to use new platforms. Will I get it right? You know, and students as well, I've had asking, you know, they've just been getting used to using Teams, for instance, and they do, you know, I think this digital anxiety is sometimes there for everyone. So how we can best support people in that. And you know, it's kind of I guess we've, through moving online, realised the kind of the difficulty in accessing some of our information sources. You know, so I've had members of the team kind of really gain a sense of empathy for students in terms of some of the questions they've asked, you know, around accessing some of our online platforms. So I'm thinking particularly now as PPEP is one of our resources, which is quite difficult to log into off campus. So it's kind of helped, but it has been a challenge to keep supporting students in their access to information.
Right. I do think it's interesting actually looking through challenges from both our sides. There's all of the challenges are really difficult. Also, I've definitely found, I'm sure Ella, you'll agree, that they're all kind of opportunities for us. They've kind of highlighted gaps or issues that were maybe already there that we just never had that catalyst to engage with or address, like the anxiety about using new platforms, for example. Actually, that's always been there, but this is, I think, really enabled us to hone in on how we deal with that and with communication and everything. So yeah, certainly I think it's interesting that the challenges aren't necessarily all as bad as they seem. So moving on, I did promise we would be talking about solutions. So here they are. So we took a lot of different approaches, but both of us, Ella and I, tried to boil down kind of some of the key solutions that we had to those challenges and that kind of initial reviewing of what our service is that I talked about right at the beginning and what our service points are. So for the frontline services, one of the big ones, unsurprisingly, like every basically every organisation right now, Teams has been key to that. So we did have Teams in place before the lockdown happened. However, I would say that the knowledge of how to use it was pretty low, and we just didn't use it very much. Certainly, I thought I had a good knowledge of it, and then moving on, I've learned so much more. So it definitely highlighted what kind of like how we weren't using this really great tool. So Teams were used in a lot of different ways. I mean, before the actual lockdown, because we had these 2 weeks where we knew it was coming, we did a lot of pre-closure work. So we did some work setting up channels, specific working from home tasks, because actually for a frontline team, it is not simple to say suddenly, right, well, you're now working from home all the time. When so much of your job as a frontline member of staff is about the physical space and the stock, and actually engaging with those things. So we set up a channel for that. Along with other things like actually like channels to support inquiries, just making use of some of the tools on there. We also made really good use of the chats. So again, being aware that communication was going to be an issue for us, and already was an issue, we made sure that we set up a few different chats like ahead of time, so that people didn't feel like they couldn't use that function. So we had, for example, a whole customer services chat where everyone in the morning says good morning, and they might it usually divulges into some work stuff. Occasionally there's some work discussions on there as well. And now that we've kind of got used to it, we've been able to separate out the inquiry type of things, you know, that how do I get this done in channels, and then the chat has kind of more of a function of actually genuine kind of chatter and discussion as you would have on site. So that's been really beneficial, I think, to the team. However, one of the big things that we've used Teams for has actually been that engagement with the users that I was talking about. So in our kind of reflective practice of what is our service, now that we have moved fully online as a frontline team, we kind of identified that one of the biggest appeals to our service was actually the non-library specific things. So we were talking about books, it was the friendships that staff would make with students, it was talking about general problems that they were having with their assignments. So we created a dedicated team site, which was literally just for students and other staff in the university to engage with the library staff. So within that, we had different channels. We had a book club channel. We've got a general chatter channel, a channel where people can ask questions or queries, and chat to a librarian channel. And in the general channel, it wasn't, the focus was not necessarily always, here's your library team, this is what we do. It was posting things like free theatre that's available online now, or relaxation exercises and things like that, and just starting up conversations with users. And we have had some really positive engagement with that. This is one of those things that was a start from scratch type of engagement. We couldn't overload people with loads of emails about it, and we literally just had to try and get the word out through engagements on live chat, through engagements with the liaison team, for example. So I'm really impressed by how that's grown out of nothing over a couple of months. So that's one of our kind of real wins, has been Teams. Next one is Live Answers. So I mentioned our online inquiry service we didn't get many inquiries at all. So we were previously on QP, question point, and it was coming up that we needed to transfer over to Live Answers, and it was kind of serendipitous, the timing, that we decided, yep, actually, let's make this move now. We know we used the opportunity, I guess, to look at where the shortcomings were of QP and why people weren't engaging with us. So we realised that actually it was really hard to find a live chat function. It was really difficult to find the link. And the fact that we were getting maybe 1 or 2 live chats a week kind of really proved that. So we did a lot of work into the actual setup of Live Answers, all in the space of about 3 weeks while working from home, to set up something that actually we could almost relaunch this entire online service and go, right, here is what we're offering as a frontline team now to our students. And we saw a massive increase in usage. I've got some graphs which I'll show after Ella's approaches and solutions, but we saw it went from maybe 1 chat a week to hundreds in a day. It was fantastic to see the difference, and the user response was really positive because of that. So I guess that rebranding was one of our real solutions. It wasn't just using a new service, it was going, right, we really didn't get this right last time, how can we make it better? And the team were excellent, considering this was a brand new system, brand new service. They were learning it all online. They picked it up and just ran with it, which I think really shows their kind of the dedication that they had, and I guess the faith that they had in the entire library team as well, because that's a really hard thing to do. LinkedIn Learning was another one. I think, again, I'm sure a lot of people have had this, but especially for the frontline team, we have shelvers that weren't furloughed, so shelvers that were actually working, but working from home. We've got library assistants, so we couldn't just suddenly translate all of their roles to entirely online tasks, especially not at the beginning. So we gave a real focus on, actually, let's focus on your professional development. What areas do you want to learn? Where are your gaps? And did a lot of like self-reflection exercises. So the people that maybe had lower digital literacy skills really focused on kind of basic Excel, for example, basic Word, etc. Or people that were more confident were looking into customer services areas. And what was really nice about that was that people were sharing great courses between themselves too. So I think that focus on professional development had a real positive impact on engagement. And then finally, engagement opportunities generally. So this is with staff and students. So this was kind of the more soft touch stuff, and the particularly for staff. So we had mornings where the director of the library services came and shared news and everything, but also we could all chat. We had online quiz afternoon where we just said, actually, no, like we're not covering live chat now. This is just about us all getting together and engaging a bit. We had more team meetings than we had before, so moving them from every 2 weeks to every week, saving half an hour each essentially to chat whenever that came up. So yeah, there was just kind of a real focus. It wasn't just about how do we support the students, it was also, right, we've got an opportunity here to help staff as well. Okay, I'll hand over to you.
So similar to Amy, we had to move online very quickly. So what my team's approach was collaborative and creative, which was good to see. So when we first went online, I was organising team catch-ups just first thing in the morning, every morning during the weekday, and these were really just to keep the team connected and sharing information across the teams. I think if we cast our mind back 3 months or so, information and guidance was changing on an hourly basis, it felt like. So these catch-ups felt quite important, and they kept the team connected, but they also meant that our communication was quite strong as a team. I think was important. And then also it helped us to start using technology. So the meetings online through the Microsoft Teams, and just started using the Teams meetings tools, so encouraging them to kind of find out how the note taking in Teams work and start using that actively, which was very useful to reflect back onto information. The team actually then started to see the benefits of using Teams as well. So there was perhaps an initial hesitation about being able to support students through Microsoft Teams, but talking to my team recently, they are totally seeing the benefit of being able to have a one-to-one and talk a student through a problem in lifetime with cameras. They can share their screens and they can see the versatility of the tool. So I think they're starting really to see the benefits of this and kind of using them to the best of their abilities now, which I'm pleased to see. The other thing that we've been looking at doing and really starting to kind of develop is actually sharing experiences, teaching and teaching online, going on across not just my team in academic services, but it's in the wider team. So it's within the university. They're setting up sort of mini communities of practice, really, which has been really good. And I think starting to kind of have institution-wide discussions and kind of talking over some of our areas for improvement, which has been very powerful, particularly in terms of looking at sort of some of the institutional aims and objectives around attainment gaps. So there's been a real kind of shift towards helping people to share experiences. And being part of sessions as well as able to people to see and the team to see, what works well in a kind of training session and what maybe doesn't work so well. So that's quite a learning tool, I think. And then within the library sector within the UK, there's been numerous CPD events. So as Amy touched on as well, these have really been of benefit to the whole sector. So I think sort of a little shout out to some of the ones that I know my team have kind of been on and really gained from the sort of ones from the Open University, where they've been sharing a lot of their knowledge and their expertise in terms of how their sessions online, and kind of they've obviously had a wealth of experience in this area, being completely online and open throughout their history. And then several CPD kind of events run by the Relationship Management Group have really helped to start sharing experiences across the sector. So we're learning from other areas and other institutions. And Sconnell did a fantastic kind of spreadsheet of open resources that institutions could use to develop staff's CPD, which I know there's been various courses that have been very interesting, very useful to my team particularly. And then, so that shared experience has really helped kind of form our teaching experience and help to improve it. So the team have had quite a wealth of experience in terms of teaching. So between the team, they've worked in the institution quite some time, but perhaps not had a lot of experience of delivering sessions online, which is a change of mode for them. And the other thing that we've been looking to use more is, and probably kind of from Amy's influence really, is really looking at the data and kind of how we can use this more to help improve and inform some of our teaching. So our student services have been running surveys of students' experiences, which has been very useful to see some of the results and some of the areas where we can do better and look to improve. So, you know, we can build solutions around these. And also we do have teaching evaluations. So we gain feedback from each session that we run and just encouraging staff to use these tools as much as they can to start reflecting and looking at what works well in their teaching and their sessions delivery, because it helps to start reflecting and making small changes to your delivery, and they've been very valuable as well, I think.
So we just wanted to share actually a couple of, speaking of the data, this is my great love in life, some of our, I guess, key bits of data from the lockdown. So we did a bit of a comparison, looking at, say, for example, you can see the chats that we had. So we knew there was a problem, and we moved to lib answers in May. And you can see come June what happened to the amount of inquiries that we got. So you can, I suppose, using this data, we can find where the issue is, but also it's for us, it's checking that actually it's working, which it clearly is, which is very gratifying to see. You can also see here the way our inquiry types, which we've been collecting, are looking at the moment. So previously I would have said it was much more evenly spread. So this data we've been collecting for about 4 or 5 months. But you can see that big brown chunk is e-resources, and then library search, which is our library catalogue, is next to it. So you can kind of see actually there's clearly a need for the support there, and we just didn't quite have it right on how we were engaging with users online. So it'll be really interesting to see once we open up actually how that online service, like how those numbers continue either to grow or if they will drop off with the in-person. But I think it's clearly key that we keep the online in mind and we keep developing that. You can see down in the left-hand corner, that's a bit of information about that, the Library and Archive Services online team site that I was talking about, the one where students can engage with library staff, and it might not seem like a lot, 142 users, but the majority of those are active, and that's only from April that we've had people join, so April to mid-July. And actually again, the fact that we've started from scratch, I think that's actually quite a positive without the online the in-person support of getting people to join. I think once we do go back on site, we can make this grow into something, well, I think really beneficial to our users, and thinking of the different backgrounds that our users come from and the different needs that they have from the library. I think we could make this something really special to continue that engagement.
Yeah.
And then Ella, I don't know if you wanted to talk about that great slide with the differences between last year and this year.
Yes. So just to touch on quickly the teams as well, I think the other thing that's been great for is actually informally engaging with staff and students. So there's been discussions going on, and it's been a safe space for both staff and students to start familiarising themselves with Teams, because I think some students have kind of used it in that way as well. So it's been pleasing to see, I think. So we've been looking. I've been looking a little bit at our kind of period of March to July, and obviously we're not completely through July, so this isn't 100% snapshot of this year yet. But we kind of, the numbers of students that we're seeing this year look fairly comparable to last year, but we are noticing there's a slight increase in sort of calls for one-to-one support. So I think this is where students are kind of perhaps needing a little bit more personalised, a little bit more kind of support going online. And the other thing that we've actually seen during this is kind of a slight increase in the number of staff contacting us for support as well. So, you know, I don't think any of this data is completely surprising, but it's good to see in some ways that, and kind of look at if this is a trend going forwards. How do we keep supporting staff and students in a one-to-one basis? It's quite time intensive. We will be looking at some of the analysis of kind of frequently asked questions to look at building more online support for staff and students.
Okay, so moving swiftly on to some of the opportunities. And so this is kind of not just the opportunities that we've found now, but also a bit of reflection on opportunities for the future, I think, for library services, not just our service, but hopefully in all library services. So for the frontline type services, and certainly from my perspective, I think one of the great things about the move online and push into us developing our services online is catering to different needs. Actually, I think there's a real assumption that students that don't come into library just don't want to come into the library sometimes. Although I say a lot of people are obviously really trying to work with students to find out why, but actually we need to accept that the student body is changing, and we should have a really diverse student body that has different times that they can come into the library. You know, there's lots of people that work, have families, that have different mental health issues, which are coming in, different physical health issues. And so actually this focus of online means that not only can we reach a new audience, but also we can cater to different people. It makes us really think outside the box in how we are engaging. I mean, my ideal situation from a frontline service really is to have a version of the service in lots of different ways. So we might have video tours, for example, of the library. We might have podcasts to actually engage with us. We have the in-person stuff as well, and the phone live chat. So it's really finding new ways to actually, how are they going to engage easiest with us, because it's really hard being a student, and it can be really hard to access library services in the first place. So for example, one thing I'd really love to do is start setting up things like TikTok for a library service. I think there's loads of opportunities to actually find out what we're doing well, and get people to realise that we're not this really scary place. So yeah, definitely catering to different needs and learning how to do that. As I said, reaching new audiences, and making university and education more accessible because of that. We really need to move away from this, the real focus of in-person models, but also it allows us to then better support TME users, for example. There's loads of benefits to that. Then and reframing our roles. Again, this kind of is what I was talking about at the beginning, of we have a model of frontline library services which is based on a different time and a different type of user. So I'm really excited by what this will mean for frontline services. I think it forces libraries to do better, and to be more creative with what we're doing and what we're offering, and making sure that all, as I said, all connection with users and all engagement that they have is the most valuable thing you can do. When suddenly in-person time is a commodity almost, especially with the blended learning, that people are not going to be on campus all the time, and we have to be better with the time that we've got with you. We have to make sure that it's really valuable for them as well, because when you're at home on the computer, even then you've got distractions coming from you left, right, and centre. So we need to make sure that engagement time is useful as possible for them. And then finally, for me, a big has been staff experience and wellbeing. I'm a big supporter of flexible working, and of, I guess, a more human approach to working practices. Actually, a lot of the time we think that we have to do this 9 till 5 set, working pattern with an hour lunch, but actually that's not, again, thinking it back to the users and all their different life experiences and situations. Our staff are exactly the same. And usually if we think outside the box a little bit, we can do a lot more and be a lot more flexible, which improves like staff's home experience and mental health, and the outputs they've got at work as well. Says lots of data. So for me, those are kind of opportunities for the future that I'm looking to drive towards. Ella?
Oh, well, okay, so the opportunities and then of looking at perhaps future services for the academic services side of our service model. I think we've, similar to Amy in some sense, you can see that we're able to reach wider audiences in some online settings. So the reach of some of our materials is further, which is really good. But with that, there's challenges in keeping it up to date, making sure that it's maintained, and kind of there's kind of challenges around it. But there'll be opportunities in the future, I'm sure. And I think there's a real need in terms of kind of reaching that one audience to make sure that your services are aligned to the needs and the changing needs of the university. So it's kind of, in some senses, a way of working very agilely and kind of keeping up with changes that are going on, which have been quite rapid, over the last few months. And I think, the way that we've seen some of these sessions that we've run to support students and staff being attended, and an increase in attendance at sessions is really quite good to see. So, for instance, we've been running kind of sessions to help students and staff make the best use of our free e-textbook scheme, which I think before lockdown was perhaps sort of slightly slow in kind of update. That's been really encouraging. I think we've got a chance to engage staff and students more with kind of new content. So Amy mentioned TikTok, but I've not got my head around that yet. But I think we do kind of have to keep up to date with new channels. So we do notice, that some of the multimedia content that we're producing is getting quite high views, which is really good, and kind of using technology to its full advantage. So things like being able to record a one-to-one and make it available to the student afterwards, it's been really powerful. I think students have kind of been able to reuse that material quite easily for them, so that's been good. We've also been working with partners across the university to contribute to kind of new platforms and new content creation. So again, we've got the opportunity to kind of input into central induction plans, which is really good. And again, hopefully increase the kind of the reach of the materials. We're also keenly developing partnerships and new relationships and kind of developing existing ones with partners. So, for instance, the Centre for Excellence in Learning and Teaching has been really proactive throughout our institution and kind of helping staff and students, well, mainly staff, to upskill in terms of online delivery and dual delivery. So that's been a powerful relationship to keep going. And I think we're really looking to keep upskilling and developing our staff. So Amy mentioned about digital health and wellbeing as well, and that's an important aspect of kind of developing staff skills. But being able to use and kind of make full advantage of technology is very important as well. So I'll move us on to just some summary remarks and just finishing up. So it has been a real massive period of change for everyone across the kind of university sector, but also, institutionally. And I think that will continue, going forward into next year. We may see some sort of slight kind of settling down after that. We've really worked well with the changes, and I think they've engaged a lot with the change across the sector, and have been very supportive of each other, students and staff, and that's something that I think we'll be keen to keep going. And really, Amy said it earlier, I think, we're looking at how we can take advantage of opportunities, perhaps not see them too much as threats, but look at them with fresh eyes and, a chance to rethink services sometimes. And keeping services and kind of library services kind of visible and fitting the needs of the institutions is really important during this time. So I think we're doing a lot there, and we need to keep going. And analysis of the data and kind of survey results, and we've just had the NSS results released in the UK. So these are going to help us start forming what next year will look like. So lots to do, lots to keep going with. So.
Definitely. So I think we're taking questions at the end of the whole thing, but don't forget that Padlet is there if you want to add anything to it, if you've had any thoughts or you've got great things to share as well, because as I said, we'd love to make maybe a blog post out of it, and share kind of key expertise and experience from all of you guys and us. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Ella and Amy. I think you have given very elaborative information, and you have touched upon everything, and also you have shown the future perspective and the opportunities, how libraries and professionals they can think about and provide the better services. We will be taking question at the end of session, as you mentioned, Amy. Thank you very much for your excellent talk. Now it's time to listen to Dr. Y.S. Rao sir. He has also huge experience, I must say, in dealing with the digital resources and also dealing with the current situation. So may I request Dr. Rao sir to please address the audience, and also please start the talk. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Tripathi sir.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. I will request all the participants to please keep your questions ready, so that once the talk is over of Rao sir, we can have interactive session, and we can ask the question to the speakers, and we can also share the experiences. Please, sir, please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you, DP Tripathi sir, and distinguished speakers, and my dear students and participants. This is a great opportunity for me for attending and inviting me for a lecture on libraries play cards. And my agenda is, I'm just going to talk about libraries never die, diverse libraries, library as an institution, libraries are evolving, future technologies and services, libraries play cards, conclusion and references. Before going to my presentation, how many people are really believing our libraries are never die? Almost 99 people almost will agree with me, libraries never die, because libraries are never die because of human existence. The human existence is really depending on information. Information is the key for any kind of societal development, whether it is social, physical, psychological, or whatever, ma'am. Information is key. Information is intellectual and economic resource, but information is too much. We cannot handle how much information is delivering. We cannot know. We do not know. We know we are all in Google generation. 1/4 of information only below 1/4 of information only we are looking at less than. Whereas 3/4 of information is hidden. It is invisible web or in deep web. It means we are using surface web. That deep web is 4,000 to 5,000 larger than the surface web. Though information is produced in greater quantity, greater frequency, greater format, that information is almost unstructured, means structured only 10%, unstructured is 19%. So that is too much information overload. Look at the picture, information overload. The last 300 years statistics, 1750 to 1900, 150 years, it doubles that information. When you look at 1900 to 1950, 50 years it takes to double. Whereas 1950 to 1960, 10 years to double the information. 1960, 1992, 5 years it took to double the information. 992 to 2020, 73 days to double the information. The source is given by Gary. It means in the first century of printing, 1450 to 1550, 35,000 titles were published. In the last half century, 1950 to 2000, there were 1,000 times more, 36 million means published. By 2020, it will be reaching 35 trillion gigabytes. So information is too much. What information is delivered? What is fake? What is actual? What is the reliable information? It's very questionable. That's why the Director General Tedros, WHO, said infodemic. He said false information makes course but also affect the research work. Therefore, authenticated and reliable information is crucial to handle the situation. Therefore, a need of libraries is very much essential. So we all know diverse kind of libraries we have seen. There are generally 3 types of libraries, which are service oriented, target oriented, and business oriented. When you look at service oriented libraries, the main motto of the library is to serve community. Say, for example, public and academic, school, college, and university libraries. The public libraries mainly run by the taxpayer income. The lot of general public, the different kind of users, different kind of information needs. It's a very, very essential to know that what kind of service, what kind of resources really required for the user. Whereas academic library is a library is a part of an academic system whose primary function is not only to serve the students, but also serve academic community and reach their needs of teaching, learning, and research. When you look at the research libraries, they're all a target-based, means the goal-oriented libraries, where the recent, the corona effect, which gives immediate information, target-based information in stipulated period of time. So such kind of libraries are there. Say, for example, medical or industry libraries, drug information technologies are very much are in need of today to provide a current information. The third one is business-oriented libraries. We have been seeing the business-oriented libraries mainly. The main focus is return of investment. There are like Amazon, Flipkart, or libraries in malls. Whatever it is, whatever library it is, the central mission of all these libraries is to serve as an important institutions within their communities by providing communal, educational, research, innovation, and business information services. The concept of libraries has been changed. There have been libraries of an institutions. They have been changing from place to spaces. We all know that library is a place for reading, library is a place for teaching and learning, and library is a place for sometimes sleeping. Library is a place for managing the resources, providing information services. But there are a lot of challenges in the library. The first one is escalating of library resources, escalating of prices of the library journals, budget cuts, increasing number of users, increasing number of user needs. Therefore, we need such kind of an evolution to have such kind of collaborative model so that users can easily share their resources and get the resources from the library and share their costs. So the library is even more upgraded. They have been elevated to incubation centers. It means they're giving a place for research, innovation, and processes. They are like, they are in the gaming spot, they are in the maker space, they are in different spaces, giving an experimental space for students to know each other, sharing their knowledge, sharing their ideas, etc. Even the library is even more evaluated to as spaces. They have been a beautifully architectural, artistic value. There have been spaces for learning, collaborative learning, markers, learning spaces. There are different learning spaces for to learn the resources, to teach the resources, to share the knowledges, everything. So as a tool, the library system as an institution is redesigned to support the academic system in production of new knowledge, products, processes, and services. So the libraries are evolving, we all know. We know that closer to open shelving system. At the Ranganathan first principle is libraries for use. Earlier we know the libraries were closed in access. That has been open to open shelving. That is being given by our Ranganathan first principle is saying books for use. Without use, we cannot say anything. We cannot get knowledge. So that has to be open. Then it has been upgraded to paperless. The libraries are slowly diminishing. Means getting less paper books. Similarly, the man assisting to self-service system, the library is upgraded from man assisting to self-service system. Users are directly go to the self-service and get issued and get written books And even the book drops where they can place their books or even their campuses itself. Now they have been elevated to local to remote access. They have been anybody can access anywhere in across the world and able to access from remotely. Now, then the latest technology, even robotic technology, means the artificial intelligence or virtual reality or machine learning makes the entire technology has been changed from machine assisted to machine generated writing. In order to make the libraries sophisticated and service oriented, we need a technology. Technology plays a prominent role in our library system. Future technologies and services. Nowadays we can talk about the robotics. They are even they're welcoming from the welcoming to self rectification, self management. They're doing it. The cloud management system, the all new generation library management systems are in the cloud now. They are making the drones to provide information or supplying or delivering books to drones, and providing RFID technology, means radio frequency identification technology, giving an opportunity to all libraries to make user close and make self-service systems. And libraries are more repository oriented to showcase their intellectual research output. Similarly, libraries are designing their web pages for their greater visibility and transparency. The libraries are even the technology, 3D printing technologies to make the three-dimensional figures using the CAD. Online resources, you all know, that is the ebooks, e-journals, or any kind of databases. You can able to access the resources from their terminals. Digitization is a great now. Many people, even Google digitization project, even digitizing all your intellectual assets of traditional knowledge into a valuable product and open it to public. Even the digital Google digitization project opening their book through Hathitras. Similarly, online learning. Nowadays, the platform, the COVID makes every citizens more comfortable to learn through online. Similarly, e-publishing, every library should have their own blogs or wikis to reach the students. Similarly, content management system, where an application-based software system to learn or accumulate or collect information for in a particular field of study. Therefore, technology is evolving in every corner of every sector in the every sector. Therefore, you look at the example, lithium-ion battery. Springer Nature is recently given a task to Christopher in Bethlehem University, I think. They have given target to generate a mission-generated book. That is lithium-ion batteries. And they generated using the artificial intelligence. The mission has generated this book. The book of consisting 150 articles from 2016 to 2018. They compile it and make it a beautiful book. It's like a mission-generated summary of current research in the field of lithium-ion batteries. Therefore, technologies makes the academic community close to library system, resources, and services. So the now libraries play a key role, making the entire society socially responsible, accountable, and sustainable forever. Means card. Each word means C is symbolic to different cards. It is a C one card, A one card, R a card, D a card, S a card. So library plays different cards to make the entire library is more beautiful, more reachable, more attractive, more scientific, and more reputed. So therefore, libraries are playing key role setting up C6, no, create communities connecting to collections of copyright material in cost-effective and collaborative way. C6 indicates communities, connectivity, collections, copyright, cost, and collaboration. Communities, library as a leader builds the communities and provide resource infrastructure facilities and services to meet the academic and research goals to the institute. The community connects, the connectivity comes in. The connectivity acts as a gateway to client interface, hooking access to multiple systems, resources, and databases that reside in both local and remote locations safely. Then collections. Collections impact the academics library system largely in planning, organizing, and managing and executing resources with a quality and reliability. Then the collections of copyright material as a right to validate the intellectual works toward their access, usage, license, protection, and public disclosure. Therefore, in cost-effective way, the cost as a currency, accounting to pay out of acquiring and utilizing the resources and services in transparent and economic way. Collaboration finally. The collaborative acquisition model to access and share equally and legitimately. So the librarians are very much essential to create communities connecting to the collections of copyright material in cost-effective way and collaborative way. And libraries pay A6. Acquisition, availability, accessibility, adoption, affordability, and assessment. This is ES6 is very important so that librarians look and manage their resources with this. Acquisition of intellectual resources, both print and digital, with the quality, reliability, flexibility, validity, and originality, and make them available to creating a high-end infrastructure facilitations to make them available and accessible, to give them accessibility for 24/7, equitable access for both local and remote access. Even physically challenged people, you have to give equitable access. Adoption. Technologies you have to adapt of the next generation LMS, RFID technology, or discovery tools, or adaptive and mobile learning technologies to make the entire content more visible or more accessible. Affordability. You should have able to minimize your costs involved for this technologies, for infrastructure, for content. Similarly, assessment. For everything, evaluation-based assessment is necessary to be able to evaluate library system, resources, services for impact, accountability, visibility, and transparency. Therefore, acquire resources and make them available and accessible in adoption of new technologies with affordability and accountability. So the libraries play ASKs means resources, research, repository, recognition, reputation, and ranking. There are ASKs. Resources. The quality, reliability of resources, both print and electronic, supporting to research, supporting to teaching, learning, research, innovation, and training. The research, finding a new, not only helps in generating new knowledge, but also supports in generating revenue through products and services and gets greater visibility. Repository is nothing but a depository of resources stored in a server and make it publicly accessible for greater accessibility and longevity and visibility. So the recognition, once you have a research, resources, repository, then recognition comes in. The recognition means acknowledgement of your intellectual work that gets cited and validated by the peers, and reputation comes in later. A kind of social recognition for your hard work, or honest integrity, for your intellectual works. Then comes ranking. Any kind of promotion or evolution based certain parameters, use the parameters and get the institutions get ranking. So therefore, resources make research more visible through open access repositories. That works get recognition and reputation and help for ranking of the institutions. Libraries pay these six: design, develop, delivery, discovery, delivery, decision, and discourse. There are 6 Ds involved in every kind of technologies. We need a design, innovative architectural spaces, learning spaces, collaborative spaces, maker spaces, creation of artistic infrastructure drawings for greater use and sustainability. Development, creation of your content development and delivery models, quality and accuracy. Discovery, implement an effective search and retrieval system to filter the content. Delivery, timely active-based learning and skill-based training services. Decision, able to make intellectual and feasible solutions and answers for the projects or questions. Discourse, provide a digital literacy or awareness programs. Therefore, the design and development of spaces helps in discovering the resources that are delivered timely to make the strategic decisions for public discourse. The libraries play yes, 6: sophisticated, scientific, social, sustainable, service-oriented, and self-reliant. Every library or every librarian must vision for it. Sophisticated. Librarians should create a state-of-art and infrastructure facilities for collaborative learning spaces for education, research, and innovation. Scientific. Build a pool of scientific and specialized information resource acquisition, utilization, preservation, and dissemination. And libraries should talk about the social, means cultural transformation and equitability, including socially challenged people. Sustainability. Library should go sustainable, social, natural friendly, and utility free environment for longevity, quality, affordability, and accessibility. Service oriented, provide timely, friendly, and value added services to their clients. Self reliant, generate funds as a source of revenue for the survival. So therefore, libraries need to build a sophisticated, scientific, social, sustainable, service-oriented, and self-reliant library so that you meet your research goals. Conclusion. Libraries never die as a matter of change. Information overload that needs a filter to discover relevant and factual information. Therefore, redesigning of library spaces means learning, collaborative or makers, media productions, virtual meetings, etc. Libraries becomes an incubation center to encourage entrepreneurs in the promotion of research, innovation, products, and processes. Libraries are evolving from paper to paperless, self-service to robotic assistants, smart appliances, and voice control assistants. Create communities connecting to collections of copyright material in a cost-effective and collaborative way. Acquire resources and make them available, accessible in adoption of new technologies with affordable and accountability. Resources make research more visible through open access repositories that works get recognition, get reputation, and help for ranking. Design and development of spaces help discovery resources that are delivered timely to make strategic decisions for public disclosure. Build sophisticated, scientific, social, sustainable, service-oriented, and self-reliant library. Therefore, the world's most secret library, the Future Library Project, the Norwegian government has done, is a public artwork that aims to collect an original work by popular writers every year from 2014 to 2114, means 100 years. The works will remain unread and unpublished till 2114. 1,000 trees were specially planted for project in the Nordmarka forest and its inception. The 100 manuscripts will be printed in the limited edition anthologies using paper made from the trees. The source is guarded. The world's most secret library is this. So librarians are still finding ways to make information useful, but now technology gives them more options. References? Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rao sir. I think you have given a very useful information throughout your session, and some of the points I noted down, and you started with the situation of information explosion, and you also mentioned that what information to be provided, libraries have to think, and they all have to work for just like a mission to help the community, to connect the people, to connect the collection, and also we have to look forward how we can be more sustainable in our profession for the benefit of profession. And one tagline, or you mentioned, libraries are never going to die. That is true, because if we remember the laws of library science given by our very means father of library science in India, Dr. Ranganathan, in his 5 laws, one of the law is library is a growing organism. So it is true, sir, libraries are not going to die, but we have also to ensure that how we are going to provide the services. So thank you very much, sir. Your talk has been very touching and very informative throughout your session. And I'm also very much thankful to Amy and Ella for their informative session. They started the session and discussed all the points that what the libraries need to think about and how they can plan for the better activities in order to promote the services, and so many things they have talked. I think all the participants, those who have listening to these eminent speakers, they must have benefited themselves. Now it's time to invite the questions so that our speakers can answer. With the kind permission of speakers, may I ask the question? Some of the questions I can see they have already mentioned in the chat box.
Please, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. The first question I noted that was from Dr. Nitin Joshi. His question was that what extension services will you suggest for the library professional and also for the end users? The question is to Ella and Amy. What are the extension services will you suggest for the benefit of library community? Extension services in this pandemic situation.
I think really you're looking at how you can move the library online. So I think a lot of what we've done at the university is to look at how we can best support users and students online. And I think we've been looking at how to do that sort of in a variety of different platforms, and I think that will continue going forwards. Certainly from an academic services point of view, I think we will be looking at how we develop collections going forwards, which are more digital first, where we can. So I think some of the challenges that we have are kind of not always within our control of change. And I think some of the kind of issues within academic publishing are kind of wider, and will require more sector-wide negotiations and kind of and changes. But that's certainly something I see kind of having to be prioritised more as we go forwards and kind of move past this period.
I mean, from a frontline perspective, if I understood the question correctly, please shout at me if my internet's been a little bit dodgy. It's for me, I'd love to see, the online side, but specifically us looking at. I'd love to do a big research project on what students specifically need. I think the way, especially in universities, the needs of students change basically every 3 years. You've got this brand new cohort in, and I think the assumption that all of those cohorts will want and need exactly the same thing is a bit foolhardy. And going back to the thought of like libraries won't die, like I don't think they ever will, but actually like we need to make sure that we're offering a service that people need in the modern age. So for me, I think the move online is really important, but really it's about how we do that and how we focus on rather than just putting a version of online services that we think people need. It's using that kind of liaison tactic and like doing customer services and frontline services from a liaison point of view and going, actually, like it should be student and user led, because otherwise we'll fall into traps of using old technology that no one uses anymore. And not getting the engagement that we need.
I think you're right in that sense. You've got a real opportunity to kind of engage service users in the changes as well, so that usability and sort of user experience side of what we do. And I think as a library sector, we actually do quite well. We do put ourselves in the shoes of students quite often, but how do we make effective changes? It's quite important.
Rao sir, would you like to speak on this? It is your choice, sir. It's not compulsory. Would you like to say something about the extension services for the library professionals? They should follow in the library.
Oh,
okay.
You're muted, my lovely.
I think you have muted yourself, sir. Yes.
In recent pandemic, many users are contacting through virtual mode. Even the students are directly asking me and through resources, apart from the telephonic conversation. That's it we are getting nowadays. Then
okay. The next question I'm taking from Sanmati Jain. His question is that what kind of strategies libraries need to develop for providing better access to e-books, textbooks, which are more and cheaply accessible? Please suggest some access model for e-books.
This is question for me. Question for me. Yeah.
This is question from.
Yeah, Jain.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
This question is for
Yeah.
you.
Mr. Jain, it's a good question you ask, because nowadays we are all in the ebook generation now. So there are a lot of ebooks available in open platform. Many books available. You take an Calibri software, you download all ebooks and use it a Calibri software and make it in your local server, means your system, you make it as a server and publish it. It will be beautifully be accessible. So there is no point of having many resources, but you can have your own digital collection or get it through open sources. That's it, sir.
Well,
But even if you go for
Okay.
there are models. There are economic models for this ebooks purchase. If you go for consortia based, you will be getting cheaper cost. If you are going for pick and choose model, you will get only limited resources. You will get exhaust price. You will get even a bulk. You will get a large collection, but you will have a use money. So there are various models how you pick it up. So based on your library, based on your management, what they really required it. So it is all up to you. There are different economic models for purchasing the ebooks. Otherwise, apart from that, I said that you can get it. You make a server and download the many open source ebooks are available in your particular field and make it available to Calibri software. That's it. There are options for you.
I was going to say from
One question I would like to ask. Yeah, please. You are saying something.
I was just going to say, from a UK perspective, we are struggling with this this area, and I think, as I mentioned, it's something that's difficult to kind of completely overcome. But I think as libraries, we have roles in kind of negotiating with publishers and keeping engaged with our institutions that do that on a kind of a more sector-wide kind of basis. And I know in the UK we have organisations like GISC that negotiate a lot with publishers. So it's keeping up with those agendas and inputting into those. And really going back to something Dr. Rao said about kind of the open source and the open access kind of publishing agenda, and then really kind of trying to work with academics as much as we can to kind of sell the benefits of open access to them. You know, we are seeing slow movements in textbook publishing and kind of movements towards open access. I think over the next, over the next decade, hopefully we see more movement in that area, because I think really that's where we need to, and keeping within the right kind of laws. We have ways of digitizing chapters and kind of creating kind of repositories of those in the UK. So again, I think these things will keep developing, and the need for them will keep pushing it. So yeah, it's not an easy one.
Yeah, there are a lot of copyright issues involved in this event. Yes. Next question.
My one question I would like to ask Ella. One question I would like to ask Ella and Amy both. You all working in the different countries, so just wanted to know about your experience. While dealing with the library patrons in your libraries, what was the most challenging part when dealing with the front-end users in your libraries during this pandemic situation, this COVID? we can feel that these days users are very hesitant to come to library. So how did you deal the front end services, and what was the most challenging part while dealing the library patrons? Did you get my question?
Yes. So the most challenging aspect. I don't know if Amy, do you want to this first?
Yeah, sorry, it was breaking up. I think I've got it. So for me,
Ella, your voice is cracking.
yeah, I think the most challenging aspect of moving the front line or like dealing with users from a frontline perspective was the expectation and the fact that going back to that ebook side of things, actually we don't have an unlimited budget. And so we had suddenly people still needed these resources. I mean, I talked a lot about changing the frontline role and what we did in that soft touch things that we can do in a frontline perspective, soft touch information literacy, for example, and build a relationship, get people comfortable with the service. Actually, the reason they use libraries at its core is because of our resources, and we didn't have access to loads of that. So from a lot of the frontline questions that we got was, I want this book, what can I do? And then I really felt for Ollie's team as well. Is this kind of awful thing where we're just going, we can only do, we're trying our best, but we want to give you the world, but we can't. So yeah, it was trying to like customer services while not giving the answer in a more extreme way. I mean, we're used to that, but when it's almost every inquiry, it gets quite, I guess it can feel like a lot. And I felt for the team in that respect. I don't know, Ella, if you want to elaborate.
Yeah, I think it was one of the more challenging aspects of kind of moving online. We do have quite good print collections, and actually, the students just wanting to use our print resources still, was actually quite a challenge to manage, because it wasn't something that we were choosing to do to close the physical campus. It was more from a government directive that we needed to, and kind of, I think some student expectations were that we should keep the campuses open, which is difficult to manage. And I think now when we're looking forward and we're actually planning to start reopening our Docklands campus next week, I think, we're actually looking at how we can kind of make the experience safe for students, and these are massive challenges for any library service. I think, how we keep staff and students kind of meeting their needs, but also making sure that health and safety is kind of is high, and making sure that they're coming into a safe environment as much as we can.
Yeah.
Challenges, I think, for us.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I found really hard at the beginning with students, especially the ones that wanted to come onto campus, was that actually like our staff are just as important as our students are, and it was trying to I think show like our staff that we believe that, particularly in that period where we weren't closed, but it was quite in the UK, it felt dangerous to go on the train. There was not anyone else around, and I think it was kind of like difficult to manage that with the staff as well, to get them to kind of actually take a step back and go, the students are in a really difficult position too. It's not that they don't care about you or that we don't care about you, and vice versa. It's trying to get that, I guess, empathy across the board, which is hard when emotions are running high.
Okay, thank you, Ella. I think the voice is not reaching us. Okay, sir, Rao sir, the question is for you.
Yeah.
This question is for you from Dr. Kaladhar Arnepalli. 1 minute, sir. I'll display the question on the screen. His question is that what are the tools to serve the user remotely during the pandemic situation?
So the integrated now recently.
Oh.
Kaladhar, good question. EZ proxy, you know, Kaladhar, EZ proxy, one tool is there to serve remote access. Otherwise, InfiniBT is there. InfiniBT is providing InfiniBT services for remote access during the pandemic situation. Are you listening?
I can hear you now.
So
I
I
was disconnected due to the.
yeah, the audio is really low. I don't know if you were talking to me, I couldn't hear it.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you see the question, sir?
Yeah, it's a real.
Yeah.
There are tools for remote access. One is EZ proxy. One tool is there to get remote access. You can able to access the resources from your locations. Another one, the InfiniBT recently is giving to all, and InfiniBT is giving to all institutions to make it available freely to access the resources from the remote access. Otherwise, there are tools, discovery tools, such as EBSCO discovery tool, which is there, which provides a one-stop shop for all students across the country. EBSCO discovery one tool. Otherwise, informatics is Chatgate is giving the discovery tool, giving one-stop shop to access the entire collections. Both your subscribed or public access open sources resources. Third one is Nimbus. There are tools you can use it to access your resources remotely.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Emmy and Rao, sir, for answering all the questions. I can't see any more question in the chat box now. So once again, I express my sincere thanks to all of you for joining the session, accepting the invitation, and delivering a wonderful talk on the very relevant topic today, that is service delivery model. We have to think about what services we need to provide to our end users and also for the benefit of our library. So it has been really very excellent talk by you all, and I express on behalf of all the participants and my own behalf, I express my sincere thanks to all of you to deliver talk today and to be interacting with the participants. So with your kind permission, shall we conclude the session, sir?
Thank you.
Rao,
Thank
sir.
you.
Ella,
So before that,
thank you all. Thank you for joining.
Before that, I'd like to say a few words.
Yes, sir.
First of all,
yes, sir. Please, sir.
I must
Please
thank you, DP Tripathi and distinguished speakers, Amy Stubbing and Hellas Mitchell, for come to the virtual meeting and having virtual discussions. It's a great pleasure to me, and thank you all.
Thank you so much for having us. If anyone ever wants to connect with myself, and I'm
Thank you.
sure I would agree, like please, yeah, gosh, I may have broken up. Yeah, yes. Just get in contact, LinkedIn, whatever you like. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much for having us.
Similarly, same to you. And no.
Okay, thank you all for joining.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you all. Thank you all. Namaskar.
Okay, wish you all a very happy evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Tripathi sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, good night.
Good night.